Hello, my friends. So I am back to just do a very quick Bible study talking about whether or not we are presently experiencing birth pains. So I have a lexicon up in front of me, and I will actually go to BibleHub.com and Matthew 24. This is the Alet Discourse that many of us are familiar with. A lot of people generalize some of the things in here saying, well, these things have always happened and they're just going to get worse. And that's a sign, quote unquote, sign that we're approaching either the nearness of the rapture, the start of the 70th week, the second coming, pick your object point, whichever that may be. And unfortunately, there seems to be a misinterpretation of what these things are actually talking about. And specifically, they're talking about the beginning of the 70th week and the opening of the seals, which Jesus specifically states right here. As he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? So when is going to be a chronology of events, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So he's going to then proceed to talk about the events, these signs that are contained within a chronology of events leading up to and including the second coming of Jesus Christ at the end of the world. Well, that's Daniel's 70th week, which is the chronology of time which immediately precedes the second coming. And identifiably, he then goes into talking about the opening of seal 1, seal 2, seal 3, seal 4, seal 6, and calls them the beginning of sorrows. When you take this over to Revelation 6, it talks about the opening of seal 1 and seal 2 and seal 3 and seal 4 and seal 5 and seal 6, and says, the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? The great day of his wrath is the beginning. The great day of his wrath is come, means has started, equals the beginning of sorrows. So this is Revelation 6 to a T, with the exclusion of seal 5, which isn't a judgment, it's martyrdom, which is actually salvation for believers, which is why I believe it's not included in the Alet Discourse, because it's talking about bad things, and martyrdom actually isn't bad, it's good, because to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, shall deceive many. That's seal 1. And let's actually just, let's see, 1 through 8, and then Revelation 6. So we'll get these up on our screen here. So when he says, Take heed that no man deceive you, many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. When the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts say, Come and see him. I saw, behold, a white horse. This is the one who comes in the place of Christ, who is the rider on the white horse in Revelation 19. And he that sat on him had a bow. That is the Greek word taxon, which is akin to the Hebrew word kesheth, which is representative of a covenant. The original language taken from Genesis 9:13, I do set my bow in the cloud, it shall be for a token of a covenant. And that time it was the Noahic covenant, but this is the end times covenant, which is attributed to Daniel's 70th week, which comes from Daniel 9:27. So this is the start of the 70th week. There are other ways to discern this. However, the bow is the primary way in which to discern that, because the bow is representative of a covenant. I could do a word study to show you that, have done a word study to show you that, but this is day 1 of the 70th week. He that sat on him had a bow. That's the Daniel 9:27. A crown was given unto him, because Jesus told the religious leaders in John 5:22, I am come in my Father's name, ye receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him ye will receive. And that's not John 5:22, but it is in John. John 5:22 is him telling us that all judgment has been committed unto the Son, which is why you see the Lamb opening the seals. Regardless, a crown was given unto him because he's accepted of the people, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. That word is similar to how the Septuagint renders Daniel 9:27's commencement. The covenant will prevail for many. Prevailing and to prevail is conquering and to conquer, meaning there is a starting point and it continues to do so for 1260 days. So he went forth conquering and to conquer. That's prevailing and to prevail, which is simply that the covenant is reinstituted, and it will be that way for the next 3.5 years, 1260 days, 42 months. So that is how we look at seal 1. and all of the things that go with seal 1 very, very briefly. And there you go. That's what that relates to, these two verses, Matthew 24, 4 and 5. Next, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. The end is actually characterized, it's relative to Israel's time in Jerusalem. When you move into further into Matthew 24, it says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. Because then the immediate aftermath of the preaching of the everlasting gospel is the abomination of desolation, and then is the flight of the remnant. So the end is not yet refers to Israel's time in Jerusalem, and then the end coming refers to the preaching of the everlasting gospel, the abomination of desolation, and the subsequent flight of the remnant. The end in this context being presented in Matthew 24 is trumpet 7. So from the beginning to trumpet 7, which is the time in which the temple will prevails and will continue to prevail, that 1260 days, is actually what both of these are referring to, the first half of Daniel's 70th week. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. So let's talk about the kingdom against kingdom. That's seal 2. There went out another horse that was red. Power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given him a great sword. Next you have famines, Matthew 24, 7. That's seal 3. When he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast saying, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And then next we have pestilences. That's going to be seal 4. When he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and him that sat on him was Death. His name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed after him. This is unbelievers dying and their souls getting sent to Hades to await the great white throne 1,007 years later, or sometime thereabouts. But this is the death of unbelievers, and they die in the ramifications of the opening of seal 2, which is death, sword rather. To him was given, and power was given over them over a fourth part of the earth, unto them over a fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword. That's the ramification of seal 2. And hunger, that's the ramification of seal 3. And with death, that's pestilence. And with the beasts of the earth. So that's actually regardless. What this is talking about is that people are going to die in an unsafe state as the ramifications of the opening of seals 2, 3, and 4. Seal 5 is absent from Matthew 24 because, again, that relates to salvation, not to judgment. And then seal 6 is, I beheld when he opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. And that's what this is talking about. So all these are the beginning of sorrows. And we further go to the end of Revelation 6, and it tells us, the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the chief captains, the mighty men, every bondman, every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the rocks and mountains, mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come. Who shall be able to stand? The great day of his wrath is come is the same thing as saying all these are the beginning of sorrows. So in case you didn't know that, this is 70th week specific, beginning with the opening of the seals, tied specifically to Revelation 6. So nothing that is contained in Matthew 24, with the exclusion of the events of 70 AD, which the first 2 verses are talking about, have anything to do with our dispensation, but more specifically, none of this has anything to do with the church at all. It's all Israel focused. So what I want to do is take you to the lexicon for Matthew 24:8, talking about all these are the beginning of sorrows. Where does this word appear? Because people think that beginning of sorrows are general, and we're going through them right now, birth pangs increasing in frequency and intensity. Okay, well, here are all of the verses. We start with Matthew 24:8 at the top. It occurs 4 times in the New Testament, and this one where I'm going to take you to is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The Bible will tell you what it means, and it will clarify itself. I don't think there's anyone that I'm aware of who thinks that 1 Thessalonians 5:3 isn't talking about the 70th week, and indeed it is. So this should help us understand that the reference to sorrows, birth pangs, travail, talking about the same thing in Matthew 24:8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, not ongoing right now. And we wouldn't expect it to be because it's related specifically to the 70th week, which is what this word travail tells us. When does travail start? For when they shall say peace and safety. There's your reference to the Daniel 9:27 covenant, the commencement of the 70th week. Then sudden destruction cometh upon them, not us because we're gone. As travail upon a woman with child. All these are the beginning of sorrows, and they shall not escape. So I don't think there's anyone that I'm aware of that studies the end times that's a pre-tribber who doesn't understand that's talking about the 70th week. And this is quoted frequently in response to us affirming that we won't be here, they will be here, and it will affect them, which is everyone who isn't saved. Well, the same word to describe travail is the same word to describe sorrows from Matthew 24:8. And the clarity of this is gained in the book of Revelation with the opening of the seals and talking about the great day of his wrath is come. So there really shouldn't be anyone who's talking about birth pangs occurring now, because they're not. And if you thought that they don't start with seal 1, Matthew 24 puts that to rest, in conjunction with Revelation 6 puts that to rest. And 1 Thessalonians talks about us being absent from all of this because we're just not here. So when I say that the Bible is its own double check system, it will tell you exactly what it means. You just have to search for the parallel passages, and then you have to believe what you have seen. You have read and understand how it all fits together. But intense suffering similar to birth pain, hence to suffer greatly, great pain like a birth pain, travail pain, extreme suffering. That is not going on right now. Understanding that there are bad things happening in the world to a lot of people who are undergoing external trials and hardship. Not a single bit of that has anything to do with what Matthew 24 is talking about, or 1 Thessalonians 5 talking about, or Revelation 6 is talking about. What we see now has no comparison to what will be going on then. And this is one of the reasons why it's important to tell people that it's going to get really bad. Because if they think it's bad now, they've seen nothing. And it actually, in my way of thinking, does a great disservice to the sheer hardship, extreme suffering of the 70th week, to liken it to what is going on now and to generalize what the Bible tells us to what is going on now. Because if people think that they're doing just fine now, there's no incentive to believe in Jesus to be saved from the wrath to come. Well, because people are telling them, well, it's already happening. But most of us, at least in the United States, except for, like the 2 hurricanes that just happened, but the majority of us in the United States, even though we would, comparatively to how things have been economically in the United States in recent years, would think that we're doing just fine. I mean, you look at the world and the United States is doing just fine. So you want to tell people that we're experiencing birth pains, which are likened to extreme suffering, and you expect people who aren't already saved to want to be saved? You're kind of removing any incentive from that by doing that, by playing it down. And that isn't helpful to your cause if you're trying to win souls for Christ. The best way that you can win souls for Christ is to keep the Bible in context, to learn it as it is written, to tell people if they think things might be bad now, they've seen nothing in comparison to how it's going to be when the 70th week commences with the opening of seal 1.